And we're live. We're back Monday again, super fast, scalding. I mean, I turned around, it was, Monday yesterday. Now it's Monday
It
again.
was
I missed
Monday
the rest,
yesterday.
yeah,
I
the rest
promise
of it.
you it was. Welcome
But
back, everyone, to Mindful Nuggets. Welcome, welcome. We hope everyone's had a beautiful weekend, but guess what? It's Monday again. So it is that time for us to bring you a nugget of information. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already and you're joining us. And then we want you to grab a keyboard and we want you to get in those comments. We want you to ask questions. We want you
di-
to give us your feedback in those comments as well. So, Mr. William, we're back for another round this week.
yeah, now I brought a friend, and we're
You
going to have a
did.
great conversation today because there's a lot of us facing uncertainty out there, and we don't know what to do. And many of us believe in God, and we have an expectation that we're going to trust God and it's going to get results somehow. Yet we keep leaning on our own understanding, and how we speak about that too is also detrimental. And I brought in Henry. Henry is a good friend of ours or mine, and I've known him for several years now. And he's been real special in my heart. He's a follower of Jesus. He's aligned with God, and like the rest of us, he's also a human too, and has gone through some struggles and going through struggles, and that's part of it. This whole conversation is let's get real. Let's have an honest conversation because when we get an expectation, we talk to God and we're in trouble or we need guidance and wisdom and help. A lot of times we fall back on our own understanding, like I mentioned before, which means that we're kind of fearful and we're not really trusting God. And there's a separation there that's really driving a wedge in the outcome of what could be fruitful in our life or could be going through a dry season that we don't want to go through. So, Henry, you want to introduce yourself a little bit, talk to everybody, and then we'll get into our conversation.
Yeah, hey, what's going on, YouTube world? I am a friend of William and a newfound friend of Michelle. We are, I met these fine folks in the leadership lifestyle that we all live because we get to do these things in our lives and we get to be of service to folks out there in the world. So
Mm.
being here right now, I'm excited. You see, if you can see on there, it says transformation specialist because, that's what God does and that's what we're all about. It's all about transformation and going from point A to point B, but talking about the little nuggets that we come across the way when we're filling that gap and getting to the other side. It does happen. It is possible. It is okay to have friends and people like-minded in there. And you're not always alone because you got the good God right there with you every single way. And I know that transformation happens when we really are able to be still and hear that voice inside of our heads that trumps all other voices in our head telling us that we can't transform and telling us that we have limitations. And I help people focus on their language because the language is what happens in your brain. You may try to hide what's going on inside of your mind, but your words will let us know exactly what type of state you're in. So, being mindful of people going through transformation, I noticed that language is the best way to help people get through transformation because if you focus on that, then we don't get caught up in the story and the trauma of it, and it's allowed to see that you relive that through your life every single day. And reliving that story does not serve you unless you change the language. Yes, you had to go through something tough, but you get to find the little nuggets along the way that get to be a part of your life with everything that you build. And those little nuggets, those little morsels, those little chocolate chips in our day-to-day life that are just those surprises when we look back are the things that make us who we are. And that's what we all champion inside of here. Transformation, leadership, believing. We want to transfer that belief to you that you can transform, that you can have another day, that God is speaking this calm voice inside of you, ready to raise up and rise up everybody that's around you. But first, you got to learn where the little nuggets are that are happening in your life. What did you learn today that you can teach your kids tonight or tomorrow? This is what we get to do. So I'm lucky to pass on some of my stories through my trials and tribulations and my experience with God here with you folks. And thank you for having that time, to allow me that time to really connect with your audience
Well,
out there. I
yeah,
appreciate you guys.
exactly, Henry. We're speaking a language that needs to be heard. What I received from that whole conversation is who created the word, and then whose word is it, and then how we using his word in our own life. And that's very important as far as alignment. Then I heard from that is what we're going to be talking about a little bit about. Are we in our story? So is that just doing and repeating our own history? Or are we re-scripting something that is fruitful, that's going to be alignment, that's going to produce an outcome that's desirable in our life and glorifies God at the same time?
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we were talking about. We're going to be talking about tonight. So already we're in alignment. The Spirit is here, and thank God that that He is here. So
we need to stop for a second and tell our listeners what they're listening to tonight as far as what our title is. We kind of skipped that part. So
Sorry.
hey everyone, now here at Mindful Nuggets tonight, we're talking about done versus doing. We are talking about the wisdom, as William spoke about, the trust, the fruit and seasons. We have been kind of building up to this. We have been talking about the mask, the identity. Are you in alignment? And now you're going to hear how we get into alignment and we still have a tendency to fall back. We still have a tendency to go back to our ways, do what we know feels comfortable. But here's the real thing. We need to get out of the comfort. And how we speak to ourselves is how it reflects out in how we produce. So Henry is going to dive into this tonight. He's going to speak upon his story, how he came to be, how things have, really been working. William and I have been telling you our story, but Henry has a story and he would love to tell it to you all tonight. So again, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you are in our comments. I'm watching them over here. So we will respond, I promise, while Henry speaks. So go ahead and Mr. William, let's kick off this first session.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, the point being that God already knows the outcome. Why does the process feel so hard? And why do we feel like nothing's occurring in our life? We always hear, trust God. It's already done. Walk by faith. Yet internally, we're still dealing with the flesh, financial pressures, uncertainty. We're not wired for uncertainty. We abhor uncertainty. We don't like transitions because it's unknowing. A lot of times we're wearing masks we don't even know that we're wearing, that we adopted over time. And we have fear. We have survival thinking. And especially in survival, we're taught survival. Yet, do you know how to come out of survival and live as it's already been done, and you're walking towards the fruit? And we're burnt out because we're so far out of alignment. I'll give you this analogy that you hit a big potholes along the way down the freeway, and you hit so many of them, your car's out of alignment so bad your tires are just smoking and wearing out, and your body gets that way too. But it's smoking because it just hadn't had time to recoup. It's always going. It's always in performance mode. And the world demands that from you. If you can't perform, you're not worth anything. And that's their viewpoint on you. And we don't like to trust because we're taught not to trust. So it's counterintuitive already to be starting to trust God when He's asking you to. So we're here to have that exact discussion and why you should trust God. Because without Him, you're apart from Him and life does not flow. And we've got to figure out how to become reattached, be the branch of the vine to let Him flow through us, because we don't produce the fruit. We bear fruit, but we don't produce it. Mm-hmm. Henry, you want to have a little go at that? And then...
Oh yeah, you said a whole lot in those things, like so much. I was just like, William, you are really popping the top on this can for these folks in the right way, because where we're going next as far as that goes, like, yeah, from survival to thrival, and getting out of our own way whenever God has said, ordained that, He has a Jeremiah 29:11, He has a promise, to provide, to a promise of a future, not to harm us. And I apologize, I will butcher scripture, because that's just, it happens when I'm trying to jump around and pulling on something. But thinking about this, right?
It's there.
Yeah,
right.
It's in there. And I apologize for not quoting scripture right. I'm reading the Bible every single day. I'm on 2 Corinthians or 1 Corinthians right now, reading the Bible every single day.
He does promise us, he has a purpose for us. He has a plan.
Mm-hmm.
and you wouldn't be here if there wasn't a purpose for you.
Yeah.
And you're in
you
a
know,
timeline that's specific to his plan. And that's what we're here now talking about. And he's not here to harm you. He's here to love you, as
mhm.
Henry said. So it's not the exact scripture quote, but this is the deep meaning of what it is. And so if that's the case, Henry, then why we are like this? Why we're in such a state that we're all scared, uncertain, don't know what's next, fearful, where do we turn? How do I overcome this mess that's coming our way like a freight train?
Yeah. Okay. And see, so now whenever we have the idea of a future, whenever we're going through this transformation, the first thing to really transform is our mind. We got to allow to give our minds the freedom to really expand, to believe that certain things can happen for us, that things aren't happening to us, they're happening for us. And that happens in our perception, right? And what I focus in at neurolinguistics and everything like that, it's about perception, how we perceive, how we are seeing things. And we always feel like, well, sometimes we can feel like we got to do everything. Sometimes we got to feel like it's all on us and it's all got to get done. But we're talking about God, and it's like trusting God that things are already done. Well, how do you do that? And it's like, you really need to call God and be like, hey, God, I just want to let you know, I trust you on this mission that we're working on and everything you got promised for in my life. I just want to tell you, I'm good with the trust and everything like that. And you got to understand, we get to understand that we are just men and we're going through this world and we get to live through the transformation experience. And there's going to come a point in transformation where our strength is going to end. Everything that we think that we can do is going to be finite. We're going to get frustrated. We're going to hit a wall. We're going to hit a limit of where we cannot do anything to fix it any further. And most people will get upset when that happens. Like, why can't I get through this? And they start banging their head against the wall. I need something to do. This is done versus doing. Is it done or am I trying to get it? Am I trying to do it? And you're ramming your head against the wall. When if you lean in to the promises of transformation that God gave us, where our strength ends, his begins. So whenever my mind hits that wall of I got to do some more, maybe I didn't call enough people, maybe I didn't coach well enough or anything like that, it's like, hey, God, I'm not going to shame myself. I did as much as I possibly could. And I know that as long as my intentions and alignment was right, that where my strength ended, yours is going to begin. You are God. Whatever I said, I gave the best, and you are going to take it that much further. I've done everything. I've reached out to all 200 people on my list, but I put that on God to bring the right people. Like my strength ended. I did everything I possibly could. Now, are people going to call me back? I don't know. I put that on God. Anytime. Am I thinking about, whatever I want to get done in life? What type of life I want to live? Getting my finances under order. That's some of the toughest things. But what I've learned in this process, right, is that the way that we organize our minds and the way that we want to pay attention to what has to be done and what's done and what we are doing is the organization of our thoughts according to time. Our mind organizes around time, the past, the present, and the future. It is how it measures what we've done, what we're doing, and what's going to get done in the future. Now, when we are disconnected from time, then it is very hard to see what can be done, what you've already done, and what you're doing right now, and what's going to be done in the future. Your mind is always connected to where did you just come from? Where are you going? And why are you here? Should you go back to where you were? Should you go forward to where you're going? Now, in our mind, we get stuck because of the organization of time. Now, the organization of time is not just knowing, hey, the last half an hour, I was on another Zoom meeting, and then here I'm in a podcast, and after this, I'm going to dinner. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you have a plan to restore your life, to restore a future for your kids, to restore a mindset for you, and that you can believe everything that is inside of you is going to come to fruition. You just don't have to do it all. You just really got to believe. And people lose belief and start to quit when they can't wrap their mind around how much time it takes to get where they're going. They don't know where they've been. One of
But
the
that's
biggest
also in how they're talking to themselves as well. There's that process of how they're actually speaking to themselves in that process of time, right? Because
Mhm.
we get into our head, we start saying, well, I don't have time to do this because I've got to do this. And remember, you get to do things. It's not a, I have to do this. You get the opportunity to do what it is you're desiring to
Well,
do at
that's
this
a nugget
point.
right there. That's a massive
Yeah.
one, actually, because that's just
Mhm.
mine to drudgery to get to. It's an excitement. I'm looking forward to. I get to. And that's huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, that turns the whole conversation around at that point. And I like the fact that you talk about doing, but I always ask everybody here at Mindful Nuggets, are you in the doing or are you in the being?
Yeah.
Because that's huge too, right? And how we actually speak to ourselves as well, in the doing or in the being. And a lot of people, I had this same question, as you well know, from the very beginning, because I was very resistant to our leadership program that we all know about here. Very resistant. I was very cross-armed. This is not what I said I signed up for. Um, but with that said, it took me the longest time to understand what doing and being, what is she talking about? Like, I'm always doing. What is she talking about being? And
Mhm.
then it hit me. And during that time frame was when I was really diving into my relationship with God, right? And understanding how I was actually speaking to myself at that point. So
Mm.
negative. So I can't do this right now because of, I always had a reason why, you know. Days
Uh-huh.
get busy, days get long. I mean, you nailed me right in that conversation. Oh, I just got off a Zoom call. I've got to go to this podcast, and then I've got dinner, and then I've got two grandchildren to put to bed, and then I've got to come back and I've got to get this done. I've got to get that done, right?
Yeah.
But there's no creation. There's no vision.
There's no
And that's
time to come
so
down.
the question I would have, and Henry, pitch in on this too. What's
Mhm.
the difference between doing and done?
Mm,
Yeah, and I'll take it back even a notch. I'll answer that question too about doing versus done. And I want to go back to what Michelle said about, speaking, right? She
Hmm.
was speaking is, you feel like, oh, I was at this, I'm at this and that, and you're speaking and stuff like, how am I going to get all this done? Like, oh man, we get to, as believers of God, get to understand what core power created all of this big blue marble that is behind me, everything that we've created.
Hmm.
What was the first order? What was the first command? What did God do to create this place? You guys know he spoke it into existence.
John 1.
First was the word. He spoke it into existence.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time, because of the world that has conditioned us, we lose sight of the power of what we can speak into existence. God said, everything that I can do in heaven, you can do. God is within you. You can create. And most people think they try to make their own processes, try to make your own formulas. No, no, go ahead and do that. You want to modernize the world? Cool. But realizing you're doing something that was already done. God spoke the world into existence, and he gave us that power to speak anything into existence. But when we're overwhelmed, when we're burnt out, when where we've been, where we're going, and where we're at isn't organized according to the vision that God has, that we have and God has over our lives, we will not speak it into existence. Every word, this is why I focus on neurolinguistics. Every word that comes out of our mouths is creating a reality. So if I say I'm tired, if I say I am burnt out, we know the power of I am. We just took that as an identity. We are actually violating God's number one gift and core promise. Creation is a crown. It is a responsibility of royalty from God that you are able to speak your future, your love, your kindness, your relationship, your freedom in your mind into existence. When you realize there is nothing that's got to be done, it's all been done. Can you give yourself the grace that God has already given you to speak it into existence? That even though I don't know how this world that I'm creating is going to form for my children, but I am not, one thing I'm not going to do is say that I'm not going to speak any limitations out at all. because that is a representation of your mind. The second you speak these limitations out, I know that your mind believes that. And people only quit when they lose belief. So if you're going to quit on your goals and your dreams and everything that God has spoken into existence for you, it's because you stopped believing. And you stopped believing because inside of your mind, there's something, some sort of block and limitation or trauma or conditioning and programming that was brought on by not
sabotages.
Sabotage by not choosing. It was the world. Don't put it down on the devil. Don't sit here and glamorize it. All right. We allow ourselves to get caught up in it because it's part of the human condition. All roads lead to God. He's going to pull us back in at some point in time.
I like that saying.
He will pull us back in when we speak it into existence. How many people have cried out to God and he came? God, if you just let me live until tomorrow, I will make the deal. I will get up in the morning. I will change my life. I will put the pills down. I'll put the alcohol down. Just let me live. I just want more time. Because in our minds, it's built in that time is finite and it's gone and we don't have enough of it. And that is the first code in there of bad programming. If you believe you do not have enough time, then you are not leaning into God's promises for your life, and you're not going to have it. You're going to, everywhere you look and see, you're speaking that world into existence. You're going to get presented opportunities, but you're not going to have the time. Even if the opportunity came, you will create that world that I don't have.
I'm too busy. I don't have time for that.
I don't have too busy for your dreams. You're not busy enough to be on this podcast at 5 o'clock. Like, come on.
Right.
And I get that. But that's the whole thing, is that like we are sitting here and we are going to go through many methods and many ways and conditions and systems to be able to get what you want and to figure out and discern between doing and done. But the sooner we realize that everything we wanted has already been done, we just got to be able to connect with our creator and look at, I understand when we go into how that happens, it can get people lost a little bit because people are like, how do I do that? That's the thing, is that there's
doing and done.
All right, well, let's take a moment here, everybody. If we've got some people watching here, and Ms. Amy Kaler said, "Preach it, Henry." So we're gonna preach it tonight. We love you, Amy. Thank you for watching us.
We do. Thank you, Amy.
All right, so we are talking about done and doing, and Henry's going to dive a little more into this.
Yeah, I will. I'm taking this.
He was getting fired up, and I kind of just, okay, let's put a little water on that for a second here, and then we'll dive right in. So you spoke a lot there. There's a lot there.
There's a lot to digest, and
there is.
The world condition has you always doing. You're in performance mode. You're in the production mode. You're into trading time for whatever it is. And this is a condition, but where do you stop and have presence? And what we've talked about is a loss of time.
Where do we go from there?
We've lost time intimacy, and the word intimate is to know, be very familiar, close to. And so if you're not time intimate, then you're always going to be at a loss of time because the world's going to take it from you. Now the biggest thing is where you have already planted, you're already reaping. And so that time has already started, and you're reaping what was thought long before. And so we get to these points in life, like we first opened up. How do I get here? What do I do next? But when you start thinking in the creation mode, being present with God giving us the vision, Habakkuk 2, I believe is where it said, write your vision down. There is a process to this, God's formula to bear fruit. And you have to start planting, and you have to water and nourish the ground. You have to have the right soil. You got to prepare the soil first, which is your mind, to receive seed in order to grow it. And so there's that lag time. So we are going back to Henry's point. We're very focused on time. We want immediate action. We want immediate results. We want immediate this, and more as we've gone through technology, is conditioned us to expect immediate gratification. But that's not how God works. We're already out of alignment right there.
Yeah, and it's the thing, like you said, so to get practical, right? And, I was just sharing with the folks, I got up on the pulpit for a minute to speak about,
stay up there, let's go
into existence, because the ones that really got that, and the ones that give speaking into existence a shot, will get the biggest results over this practical lesson that I'm about to give you as far as time and done versus what you've done versus what you're going to do and what you're doing right now. Because there is a practical side to managing your time and being able to figure out how that looks. But the first thing, the cheat code is what I gave everybody first, is because you can look at your goals and you can break down your vision and you could speak it into existence. And you could lean into the power of God, and he will do everything that you've been stressing on getting done. And he will bring everything that is in your vision into fruition. But here's the catch. If your mind is distracted, if you don't have the attention to detail, if you're not sure where you've been, where you're going, or why you're here right now, then there's an issue in your brain. The only reason why you're wondering if anything needs to be done versus doing is because you're not connected with time. If you're connected to the past and what you've done and you've been tracking, this is something that I coach on. You track your 24-hour day. God gets a receipt at the end of your life, but he also gets a receipt of how you spent your day and how you spent your time at the end of every day.
That's good.
It's going to be the number one thing that is connected. How did you spend your time? When we think about people that get older in life, we know now, we've had enough evidence, enough people have lived long enough and passed away to know that the number one thing that we all face when we get older is regret. And not regret of like, oh, I forgot, I should have took that opportunity, I should have wrote that book. It's not about the things that we could have done, it's what we didn't do. We regret not taking the time to seize an opportunity, to taking the time to do something without thinking it has to be perfect.
Right.
But sooner or later, we all run out of time to do something. We're all going to hit the end of that time clock at some point in time.
Doing is not living.
Doing is not living. Life is suffering, but living is giving. And you can choose, I tell people, you can choose to be lifing. You can get up every day, take the kid to school, make the breakfast, do all that stuff, go through, but where's the purpose? Where's the transformation?
You're talking to a lot of people right now, Henry, who are in that's life for them, They get in that mode. I mean, I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, I'm a daughter as well. I get in that mode as well. I get up every morning, I do my study, I come to my office, I see my clients. I might get a lunch in there. And then I go back to being a grandparent, right? We get into that. Where does that stop? Where is the reality for everyone to go? I really wish I could have went out and donated some of my time and volunteered, or I wish I would have spent more time with my parents, or I wish I would have spent more time with my kid. Where does that fine line come? Because, we're just doing and being, we're just moving along.
Honestly, we go live our lives and leave God out of it, even if we do believe in him.
But that's the thing, is that there's a limitation. We've been programming conditioned. Like, I'll give you one program that really messes a lot of people up when it comes to their lives, and they won't even realize that it's really been the thing that's been affecting them. You guys ready out there, YouTube world?
Bring it on, Tanner.
The biggest fear, there are two fears in life, right? The biggest fear in life is not death, it's public speaking. That's what they told. That is out there. The only thing worse than death is public speaking. And what is public speaking? Speaking your truth. Speaking things into existence, speaking what you think, feel, hear, see into existence. This programming and conditioning is not your fault. It happened a long time ago. They trained you in elementary school when they said the fear of speaking is worse than death. So basically, you would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. Now, we all know.
That's good.
That is good.
And I'll let you guys resonate with that, but we all know that anybody that has faced near death or has had their life on the line, that there is nothing more powerful than being able to stand up and speak. There's nothing that you want to do more after you go through that entire process of whatever in the heck held you down, those limiting beliefs. The more you speak this world into existence of what you can create and what your life was meant here.
Right. It's a subduing, Henry. Just get to in that separation from God. God wants you to come and speak boldly.
Yeah, and I could feel a message out there for somebody out there.
I was gonna say you kind of came to a something really tapped into you. So what? Somebody resonated with this. I can just tell on your face. I mean, I kind of know this world, so I'm just saying. I know, because whenever somebody kind of comes to this, it hit somebody. There was a point where I heard somebody say, I needed to hear that.
I
Yes.
hope they do. Because a lot of us
Yeah.
need to hear that.
Yeah, I
And
can
it's,
tell Henry connected. He connected with
yeah,
somebody.
yeah,
So
because see, that's where
who's he
God
connecting
got.
with out there tonight, guys? Who's he connecting with? Let us know in the comments. Who's he resonating with tonight?
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now is that who I connected with right now is, of course, I could feel connection with the audience out there with at least one person I know, but I felt the connection right now with God because we had been talking about speaking things into existence and managing your time. And then even in a moment, my own brain is going like, well, hey, Henry, how can you highlight and talk about time? And God said, no, 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 no. Systems are great, but doing versus done, and whatever you're going to get done is starting right here. And so how do you get what's in here out there so you can actually see it for yourself? You can hear it, feel it, think about it, smell it, taste it for yourself. Make it tangible.
Number
Is you
one,
gotta
write it down.
track it. You have to track your time. You have to account. And I don't mean like, oh, I spent 40 hours sleeping and just rounding it off. I'm talking about tracking your time so that you can help your mind exactly where it's been at. I'm waking up at this and have it attached to, okay, say your day is Zoom meetings or whatever it is. You need to know exactly where it's at because I guarantee you that where we really get tripped up is when somebody cancels a meeting, right? And then we got to wait an hour for the next meeting. So now we're stuck in this dead zone of time where it's an hour. What do? I go use the restroom, get something to eat, something to drink, and I come back and I'm sitting here. Okay, well, then I put on a song. Maybe I get in mood. Maybe I do some research, or maybe I get something done for the next meeting after. And it's like, that's you doing. What happens if we stop for a second and speak into existence? We say we got an hour. What if we take 18 minutes out of that hour to ground ourselves in, hey, we just lost this meeting. What's the most important thing right now? Is the next meeting. So how do I show up for this person? How do I drop in this 18 minutes to get so aligned for this next hour that whoever didn't show up here is going to get double the Henry, is going to get double the Michelle, triple the William, because I didn't get caught up in what had to get done. I had already set my schedule. How do I manage the time in between? That's what I teach. I teach the 18-minute hack. How to get yourself grounded in 18 minutes, how to get something done in 18 minutes that gives you the other 42 to be grounded and show up for the person, not for the time in your life that you're about to experience. Make no mistake that whatever you're doing next matters.
People get so busy in their life when they have quiet time, they don't know what to do with themselves.
Exactly.
And the brain doesn't like dead space. So it's going to fill it with something. Now that's what you're talking about. What I'm taking away from that, we have a choice to make.
Yeah, and it's we got to fight over these limiting beliefs. That's what where it was going, Michelle. I feel like God was like, we got to fight these limiting beliefs. We got to break these chains in our minds of control and programming that weren't put there by you. They weren't
Well,
put
and
there by
I
you.
want to highlight that really quickly because you said that we had an appointment, that person didn't show. We now have an hour that we can do what we freely want to do. But as you said, there's 18 minutes there that you could have taken that time to ground yourself, to get yourself in an aligned position for that next segment that's coming your way. And you never know because that next segment may be the segment that puts you into that next position. You
Yeah.
don't know, but if you can ground yourself in that one little bit, you never know what could come out of that. And that's why I always promote if you've got an hour, get into the word. You got an hour, get into the word. Take some time, just get into that word.
Ask the kingdom first and
Right.
always do that.
He gave you a moment. He was tugging at you. He was telling you, hey, that one wasn't for you. This one's for you coming up. Possibly. You don't know that, but how you're speaking to yourself is how you're going to come into that.
Exactly. Because in these moments of stillness, we'll try to do something if we got to face our mind, right? If we got to face our mind and how it feels, I'm sitting here. I don't feel like I'm doing enough.
Look at the fact that the way we look at ourselves, it's not our future self.
That's
Do you ever think of Do you ever think about where you're going to be? And I said be, not done or doing, be. Jeremiah 29:11, it says, I have plans for you. Did you connect?
Yeah.
And if
And
you connected, then you know the plan. Plan's already done.
yeah,
The journey,
and
you're
go
walking
ahead,
through the
I'm sorry.
journey, but we hardly ever, this is intentional, purposeful living, and this way God lives, wants us for a life. We hardly ever, in that 18 minutes, what is it my future self would look like and be, and how do I apply that time in alignment with Him and work into that so we can show up.
Yeah, and that's where go
The
ahead.
greatest thing is I'm no longer the same in the next minute than I am this past minute, because we're
Yeah,
always moving forward.
and one of the things we're doing, William, as I'm saying, is like what everybody's going in. And this is the thing that everybody's doing most likely whenever you're thinking about it. Their perception is you're collecting evidence, right?
Always.
When that meeting cancels, we start collecting evidence. Oh, I didn't follow, or this person wasn't good enough, or I'm not good enough. This person didn't like, oh man, I must have really messed that up last time, or what, the Zoom link didn't go out, something else is wrong. And it's like, blah, 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 blah.
Collecting evidence for your
Yeah,
story that you're
collecting
running in
evidence,
your
yes, for
mind
the
right now.
story, instead of going like,
Mhm.
hey, this is God's story, and I can speak anything I want into existence. This person didn't show, I'm going to speak power into the next one. But it's tough to flip that switch because we still are human. We have that
We're negative
process and
bias.
that feeling or that sensation in our body that goes, you know what, that it did suck. Somebody didn't show up and it sucked.
We're focused on the past event, not the future presence.
Yeah, and that's the thing is people got to understand that that's okay, is that you can see the magnitude of the moment when you pause. When you
Right.
say, all right, the meeting canceled. Technically, you have nowhere to go. Pause.
Right there.
Take a breath. Take a breath.
Well,
But and not to pause to really like do anything magical, but pause to give yourself a moment to think, to give yourself your mind the freedom to go, you know what? I'm not going to speak anything negative. This person didn't show up. Hey, I'm going to send them a text. Is everything okay? I hope you're all right because, you know, I really wanted to meet you and I just hope everything's okay. And then you
That's
leave it.
right.
That's perfect right there. I hope everybody
Yeah,
took
but
a
see,
note here.
that's rare
Everybody
because
take a
everybody
note
wants
here
to beat
because that's
people
how you're
down.
supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
That's because
That is
you
exactly how
you
you're
want to go
supposed to be
negative.
doing that.
Your negative bias, everybody in the human flesh, sinful, is negative bias.
Yeah.
And so you don't assume the worst, you don't fear the worst, and you don't think it, you don't judge.
And we
People
think we
don't judge.
know something, right? Because
Right.
we're thinking we know
Right.
something based off of the time we've already spent. What happens when people don't show up? But the honest fact is that none
No
of us
clue.
know what happened to the person that
You
didn't
have
show
no
up.
clue.
And heaven forbid it was a car accident or a sick person. There is so many times, not no times, but I'd say at least like 1 or 2 out of 10 is somebody that had something happen that caused them not to get on the call. Their
Most of
internet
the time,
was
it's
out.
just they forget.
Yeah. They
you know?
forget. Yeah.
They forget, we're sorry, and we get, but you reaching out with that positive, not, hey, you missed the call, where were you?
Well, the world
It's,
looks at it, you just cost me something because you didn't show up.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean,
this
you're
person
making it
doesn't
about you and
believe in
your
themselves
story.
anymore, and they
Yeah.
need to believe in themselves more. They
And
need to know that
the
I hope
world's
they're okay.
performance.
Right.
That's what the
Right.
world thinks, and that's what performance looks like. And the question you need to ask yourself: do you want to live that life? Because I can tell you right now, it brings no peace, no fruit, no joy.
Yeah,
It
and
brings
just to give
frustration.
it is frustration because, and then it's going to lead you into the practical side, right? Like into the practical side of trying to find some sort of mechanism or something to make it work better, or you think there's something you got to do. Sometimes people just don't show. And it's more of like you most likely, not to blame, shame, or guilt anybody, but there maybe was a chance where you spoke it into existence.
Exactly.
Ooh,
Not specifically,
ooh.
but you
Let's
said,
tap on that. Let's
yeah.
tap on that because everybody does that, Henry. Everybody does it, and they don't realize that they spoke that and they created that. So let's tap on that because you're the expert in the linguistic side. What are they saying to themselves that is speaking that out there? What are they saying outwardly as well that they don't realize they're saying?
Well, I think it would be a little bit different for everybody. I mean, to jump into a unified perception of what anybody experiences, everybody sees something a little bit different. What I would say is that everybody feels it in their senses. Being in neurolinguistic, everybody's going to feel it a different way. So This is Cavago, all right? This is the 6 sensory systems that happen as to how we interpret the world and how the world is represented to us, how we communicate with it. Everybody knows that two people can watch the same movie, they can watch the same thing happen, argument, whatever it is, and have two completely different perspectives. And a lot of the times, we chop that up, two people just being different. And that may be true. It is true. People are different. But they're so different that the way that we see the world, and you can tell this by how people talk when you're listening, is it's represented in a certain way. Some people see the world. Some people hear it through sound. Some people experience it through feeling. And the Cavago method is to cover it through NLP, neurolinguistics. It's the sensory systems. We have 6 senses, y'all. All right. And I'm not talking about seeing dead people. All right. These are the 6 senses. All right. Sense number 1 in Cavago, the K stands for kinesthetic. These are people that are feelers. And the way that we identify these people is by their language. They will say these things called predicates, right? Little wordy, look it up. But the predicate is when somebody says, when you ask them a question, hey, what's the biggest challenge you're facing today? Or what was that problem? And they'll words like, oh, you know what? I was looking at my plan and, you know, I couldn't see anything that would work out. And I feel stuck, you know, as I'm looking through that. And I'm looking at it and I'm baffled.
There's a good point right there. The
That's a
difference
common one.
what you're pulling out is I think or I feel.
Right.
Yeah. And the main thing that I'm paying attention to is the person that said, look,
Right.
see. This is the thing that defines us, because some of us, our primary system is through visual. So when you solve a problem, you may see it in your mind. You may be visual. You don't hear it. Somebody will tell you, how do I work this out? And you start seeing the scenario play out in your head. It's very visual. And you'll use words like I see. Look at that when they're communicating. So you know this person. That's how they see the world. Somebody else will hear it. And they'll use words like, hey, you know what? Did you think about that? Or did you look at that? And they'll be like, you know what? That sounds good to me. You know what? Hey, you know what? Tell me how this sounds. You know what? I was thinking, you know, I was listening to this, and when I hear myself think about this, this is what I hear. These people are audio. Okay. This is audio. These are people that experience the world through sound. They have sensitive ears. If you yell at them like this, they're gonna go running. They're gonna be
Right.
like,
They're gonna cow down. Yeah.
Come on, I can't hear you. And that's
Right.
the thing, is that the brain, it's not them being used they're not going to give you some sort of effort. They're not going to give you anything. Their brain's going to shut down. Just like if somebody's kinesthetic. This is the big one. This is the hardest one to get through, because they feel. People won't remember what you said. They won't remember what you did, but people will remember how you feel. And somebody that is kinesthetic, the letter K, is always, they'll use words like, oh, I didn't feel like getting up this morning. You know what? Like, you know what? Let's connect. Let's touch base. They're using words that reply touch. Hey, you know what? Can we get in touch sometime? Hey, I wanted to reach out to you so we could touch base. You know, like, hey, can we get connected? These people are kinesthetic. They are used to feeling. So in order for them to understand whatever it is, the problem you're trying to solve or help them or anything like that, they want to know that you feel them. And they want to know that they are feeling, they want you to know that they are feeling what you're saying. And if you go all of a sudden, you spend all this time with somebody that can feel, and you try to talk to them and say, hey, did you think about what I told you? Hey, did you analyze the data yet? And the feeler's going like, oh, what? Analyze that? No, that doesn't feel good to me. I don't know how that. And that's the thing, is that we create these blocks through these systems to where the person that feels believes this limiting belief that they're not meant to analyze and do the boring work and do that. They believe that they can't get into that because that's not how they are. That's not how they see the world.
So the way they're speaking, the way they're speaking is literally not correlating with who they're actually speaking to and what they're saying.
This is communication.
We're having a communication breakdown.
Well, it's language and it's communication, and every one of us on this planet.
But it's the same breakdown that we have when we're not aligned with God. It's the same thing.
Going back to speaking it into existence, like you spoke it into that person that show up. We need to think about one thing. God's word does not return void. And if it's spoken, are you speaking it in his authority where it returns multiplied? Or are you speaking it in your own power and it's causing something to disappear or not show up or not come this way that you anticipated. But what you're speaking is energy, and you're speaking the word, which he is the word. He gave you the word. So
Yeah.
how you use the word, everything's predicated off the word. What Henry just went through is communication and listening, being present, hearing,
Yeah.
comprehending, understanding that perspective of that person. Now we're talking about language, and we communicate to different types of people who we're not used to communicating, but now the barrier is understood. It's like I say one thing, he says another, but it's the same word.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Yeah.
get to learn how to communicate that way. But the very basis of all this, if anything is spoken into existence, because God spoke it into existence, he created this universe, which is a playground. Everything has already been created. It's just been discovered by us. It's been verified by science and put language to it by science, but it was not created by science. It was not created by us. It was already given to us. And we just figure out how to put all the little puzzle pieces together because he allows it.
Yeah, and there's nothing more powerful than working this situation in reverse. And when I love it when I'm sharing time with somebody and they're in a Zoom room with me, and it's like, you know what, the problem with belief and you seeing the world as something that you can get your dreams and goals is just understanding how you see the world. That's the toughest part, is that people don't know that they're kinesthetic. People don't know that they hear the world. People don't know that they see the world, and they're having conversations with people. And this is communication of change, is when you speak things into existence and you're communicating change out there in the world, is that first understanding what your system is, and that understanding that you are speaking your representation on people. So when you're speaking feeling, if you have somebody that is a believer or somebody that wants to work in your business, if they're a thinker, there is a scientific proof that that person, you're not going to close them. Their brain will shut down. This is a neurolinguistic fact because of programming and conditioning, just like being told that the fear of public speaking is worse than death, because that stops us whenever somebody shows up, or doesn't show up. If we speak belief, or hey, the next person's going to come around, or I hope this person's into healing, that speaking something positive that maybe not be, that people can't see, hear, feel, touch, is scary. And we lose belief.
Darlene Hertz, our master NLP practitioner, came back and said, I knew that was going to happen. Of course you did. You spoke it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly the point.
That's how magical we are.
Right?
If we say there's not going to be any food in the fridge, there won't be any food in the fridge.
Right. You won't find anything, and it can be completely full.
Yes, and that's why I led with the beginning of the speaking into existence, because no matter what, it starts there and it's going to circle back around there, because once we see the world in our way, in our experience, and how we feel it, see it, hear it, taste it, smell it, because there is more to it. And the one thing I will highlight for people, in case you're out there, auditory digital folks, you don't know what this means, but you're a thinker. You are metacognition. You think about thinking all the time. And
that's our analyzers.
Yeah, those are the analyzers. These are the people that think about thinking. They're called auditory digital. They hear the thoughts in their head, and then they think about what they just heard. And they think about what people see. These people are not these folks are not attached to any specific system. Their main one is thinking, but you'll hear people speak, feel, see, and hear. These are highly intelligent people. And if you're not using all these languages to speak to them, if you're not speaking contextually and intellectually, they won't get it. Yeah, this person that could have made the biggest difference in your business, this person you could have hired because you couldn't get through to unlock the power of their brain because you wanted them to feel it, or you wanted them to see it, or you wanted them to hear it. No, this person is a thinker. They're an operator. They're going to unlock the next level of your business. They're going to unlock all the organizing that you have icky feelings attached to. Because here's the thing, here's the workaround, is that those you feelers and you seers and you hearers that think that the thinking work is done, it's boring, you just haven't attached it to your representational system yet.
Oh, that is so good.
Because when you find the feeling in the numbers, like some of the guys I was working with somebody today, and I gave, the example of, when we sell something that is very numbers based, like insurance, or we're selling a house, or something that has to do with numbers, life insurance, You know, people will go
Man.
out there and they'll get sold on the feeling of making a difference in their life.
Mhm.
And then when they go out there to make the sales, they don't know how to transfer that feeling into the language to be able to support people, to get them to move across the line. And then they can't get themselves to do the very foundational work that may seem boring if you don't have the right mindset attached to it. So understanding that inside of these numbers, like getting to know your time, is power. Because when you look at this time and you can see the power in how many minutes you have, when you can see the power in, where was I going with the numbers, God? Was the power in being able to convert the feeling into moving somebody forward? No, when you can convert what your mind represented as something that's not you. That was a limiting belief. I can't do the analyzing. I can't do the tracking of the numbers. I can't do this. Why? You know you can, but you have your feeling. So you don't have a feeling attached to it. So if you want to do your numbers, feelers, kinesthetic people, if you want to get the tracking done, if you want to check the balance in your bank account and everything like that, is you have to understand that these numbers have the feeling of power. When
Mhm.
you know where your time is at, when you know where your bank account is at, when you know when your next meeting is at, when you know that in order to build a business, you feelers, that you get to plan out, hey, you got to reach out to people. You got to send out some DMs. That takes time. Then you got to send out another follow-up call. Then you got to send out an email. Then you got to send another email. Then you got to send them another DM. Then get them on the phone. Then you get them in a Zoom call. And then you get them on a Zoom call. Then you're going to have just one because you're maybe a solopreneur and you're going to set them up for the next call. So you're going to have 2 Zoom calls. And if you don't get that done, then you're going to get the 3rd Zoom call to try to get them to close. Not to mention after that, you got to do an onboarding and then you actually got to have the first class or first coaching session. So right now, when we're thinking about the time it takes to build a client, we're encapsulated in very short-term, finite ways to be able to define it. Can this person get somewhere in 60 days? It's like, no. Where can you get with your business in 60 days if you connect the feelings to all the numbers you're spending? If you can take those numbers of balancing your books and understand the power that you're going to be able to have. Because when you're converting and you're selling people into this business of all the time to be connected to it, when you know where your time is at, it'll give you the space to be able to speak powerfully into somebody to move them forward. And I know I went a little bit off the line there. I can feel it a little
No,
bit.
I mean, because really this all comes back to the original conversation that we have,
It's
right?
connection.
Where is your alignment? Where is that aligned process? Because if you're aligned with God, you're in that process of being able to switch that mindset when those things occur. When that happens, when you're out there and you're a numbers person and you're not getting into the feeler part or the feeler's not getting into the numbers person, if you're in alignment with God, God will speak those things to you, to those people that you're supposed to actually speak to.
Well, we've
Yes.
talked about time and alignment, but one component's missing is creating space.
Yeah. Okay, Will. So when I was thinking about that right now with creating space, right?
Mhm.
Creating space is tough when you have blind spots. We all have blind spots.
And that's driven by belief.
Yeah, as Will and Michelle and myself are speaking about this, and we can go practically into tips. I was already getting there. I was about to unwrap a whole sales process for people.
You're ready to
You
let
know,
go.
yeah, I was like, man, I don't care. You guys can all have it. You know, I want people to make change out there in the world. But before you move forward to going out there to co-create that change, is that understanding that what's been happening right now was the first blind spot that was created by the fear of public speaking is worse than death. It put a chokehold on whenever we think to speak up, death crosses into our mind. Whether it's a personality death or whether it's an identity death, there is a death that is happening every single time that we choose not to speak our minds. Whenever there is a blind spot on how we see the world. So people may be out there thinking right now, well, I always say feel. I always say hear. I always say think.
Back up, Henry,
Okay.
for a second. I want to make sure that I caught something because you don't speak it out, then you're killing off what it is that you were purposed to do
That's right.
in
Exactly.
this life. If you do not speak it into existence, and there's something, a gift, God has you here for a purpose. and you are here to be able to manifest whatever his will was through you, and only you've got the recipe to make it happen. No one else on this planet. But when you don't speak up, other things don't creep in and take that space, and you're going to not speak or speak somebody else's vision that doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
Darlene says my favorite pastime. She says thinking. And it is, and we all know this, don't we, Henry? Analysis paralysis. How many times have we talked about that, right?
I love to learn.
Not aware, right?
Yeah. Well, so we're coming to the close here. I want to go back to the beginning. When something changes in your life, all right, the job ends, income flow stops. What was is no longer. What you had doesn't. You get into a world that doesn't exist anymore. You know, especially going to college, younger kids, and they have a hope they're going to be able to do something, but they hardly ever end up doing it. What we've been circling around is how you perceive your life and what you believe, what truth. And I'm going to say this very clearly. Most of us only carry parts that are partially true. Our job between us and God to get in alignment is finding out his truth and aligning to his truth and not what we believe to be true. And so when we're at these spots, number one, we weren't preparing the field earlier on. We always got to be vigilant. We need to prepare it. So how do we think about that? We just go in the drift, down the river, follow the river, and then go off the cliff. And that's what happens to a lot of us, especially as you get older. And then what was a pension and a 401k, now it's just 401k. Now 401k is volatile because of the market's off. But did we plant seeds in other fields? And did we prepare it and have the capacity to be able to do it? Are we thinking, believing, speaking into existence on it?
Yeah.
So,
and I'll jump in right there. Oh, go ahead. Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead. But that's the thought. You are where you are because what you created and what you believe, and you spoke it into existence.
So speaking into existence, right? Will is dead, right? He's alive, right? He's 100% full of life vitality, right? That is great. You got to be able to speak it into existence, and you got to live out on the edges, on the skinny branches, to be able to say, you know what? There's nothing that says that this is going to happen, but I'm going to speak it into existence, because what is the option? To speak death, to speak limitation? No, it's having a language of limitation versus a language of possibility. I choose possibility all day. So everybody that's as we get to the end here and we're wrapping it up, right? It's like we got to the point, right? We talked about the power of speaking things into existence. Maybe, hey, the lie that fear of speaking is worse than death. That's a lie. Always speak your truth. And then understanding that, hey, when you're speaking, it may come out fuzzy because you're not aware of how people see the world. There's this Cavago thing of how people specialize and see the world. And this is where we close. And this is where the hammer on the head starts to drop, because this is what God wants us to connect. Look, the most powerful thing that you're going to speak into existence when stuff hits the fan, when the person cancels on the call, the one thing that we know. The one thing that we must do is get out of our own way. The most powerful words that you will speak when you are at those turning points is, I need help. I need support. I need strength. You need to speak what you need. And the most important thing, if you're sitting there and any of these epiphanies came through, is speak into existence to connect with people, because that's where God is. That's where the next level is. It's not meant for you to handle it by yourself. It's not meant for you to be a solopreneur stuck in it, trying to figure it out all on your own. Where your power ends is where he begins. Confess, prophesy, speak into existence. The right team is coming. The right people are coming. God, I haven't aligned yet because I know that you have a promise to give me something better. When we speak these things into existence, that's when we start to unleash the power. But those powerful statements don't get unlocked unless we get out of our own way by looking at our blind spots. And it doesn't, and I'm saying this, we're coaches. We can all help you out. They'll give you some stuff to be able to follow me somewhere and you can connect with me. But the most important thing is that you connect with someone.
We've been preaching that all the time.
Anybody. Go to your
Amen.
church and
Amen.
connect
You need a
with
mentor.
them. If you want to understand the world, go to your friend that you've been talking to for 10 years that sometimes you have fallen outs with her. Call your mom, call your son, call somebody in your family that you know you love and that you want nothing but the best for, and say, hey, how are you doing today? And when they say, oh, I see, oh, I heard this thing on the news today,
Now
then
you
you
got
know you
language.
just found out how to start connecting with that loved one in your family. And that's what God wants. And that's what all of us want, is for you to not be alone, for you to not be facing those thoughts. Because if you had a team and you had somebody to outsource this stuff to and that you had support, you wouldn't be stuck there in those thoughts of thinking of the limited beliefs. You would know you got support to get it out. And you need a coach. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, maybe you need a coach. You need a friend. You need a coach. You need a church. You need somebody. You just can't be alone. God speaks that into existence. He never meant for us to be alone. We're two,
Well, we all have
we're
Bruce
joined.
Kills,
God is
Henry.
present.
We've said this before. If God wanted you to be alone, he wouldn't have created that woman to
He
be with
wouldn't
that
put a
man, right?
verse
Because
in the
he didn't
Bible
want
that
that
man's
man to
not
be
an
alone.
island to himself. He wouldn't
Right.
have, he wouldn't put that.
Right.
Well, here, Henry, this is to sum everything up. You just described the world system's operating system and God's operating system.
Yeah.
The world system claims independence, self-resilience. God wants you dependent on him. Totally
Yeah, and
two
that's why
operating
when I
systems.
help people, and I'll come in just so people know, what does Henry actually do? Because tapping in with me and getting your neural linguistics, checked in is kind of tough. The way that I help people with getting the thoughts in their mind out with their word is to look out what God gave us from day numero uno. You were on this planet. Time. You got to track your time. Everything that you do. Don't set it out and plan. Your calendar is your confession. At the end of every day, take 18 minutes to look at, where did my time go? Where did I give it away? And where can I serve it better at? And how can I recover more time to do more of God's work? When you
Absolutely,
map out your
multiply it.
time, you will see what God gave you. You'll see a year ago that addiction was a blessing in disguise. When you look at the future, you will see the connection of why that addiction was leading you to this vision of where what you're building. But it must be connected to time. You're not going to see anything if you don't know where you've been, where you're going, and why you're here right now, because this is what matters. If you're not here present with me right now, then something's got you. And I speak against that devil, and I speak against anything that is stealing your attention to not let you see the divinity, because whenever God speaks this power to connect, distraction will come. I hope you hear this. Rewind, listen to it again. You weren't meant to figure this out alone. You were meant to ask for help, because God has the person out there that's ready and right for you to get underneath those blind spots and share connection and build something that you can speak into existence, but not alone.
All right,
Listen,
guys, you
you're-
heard it
you're-
from Henry. He's
Yeah,
let
you
you
did.
know that
Let's
it's a time.
let's look at this one way, if we can, if you don't mind. Time is a one-time investment equity into you.
Yeah.
How you spend or invest that time is your choice. How you align to God magnifies that time.
Yep.
How you separate from God is going to cost you time.
Yep. And that's a perfect segment, because guys, I'm going to get a little bit, I got to put the message out there. God said, you guys got to know, I was not going to do this. I talked to Michelle and William, and I was like, you know what? We're talking about God. This isn't where it's going, but we've got to time. So on Wednesday, the 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern, I am holding a live webinar called Command Your Time. If you're not commanding your time, someone else is. You may see another title out there that says, I don't have enough time. But where it's at might surprise you, because it's in these loops. It's in the blind spots. It's in our language. It's in not tracking our 24-hour day receipt. If however as you see this, you sign up, you'll get a free gift of Matthew, the Math of Time app, where you can actually sign in and you could track your whole week, and you're going to be able to get 24-hour receipts if you spend 18 minutes a day, and you'll get a free gift. You'll get a webinar, and then we'll talk about time so that you could start speaking anything you want into existence, because that's what commanding your time is. Using the good power from the good Lord that we get to experience every day that nobody can deny us of. And that's what you'll learn on Wednesday, how to understand your time so that you have control of your mind, because a free mind is only free when it has control of its time. So much love.
Amen.
Appreciate you guys. If you're not commanding your time, someone else is. And if they're commanding your time, they're probably commanding your mind.
If
And
you
if they're
if you
commanding your
don't
mind,
get
they're
if
commanding
you
your
don't get in
life.
charge of your time, you're gonna lose it.
Yeah,
There's
you're gonna
something
lose it.
It's
You're gonna
just
lose it.
flat out. You're not living intentionally, and why waste time? Ask yourself, what's the point of living if you're just
Yep.
don't give all your time away and not be in the presence of God, not bear fruit, not have peace and joy? That's part of the fruit. Because
Yeah.
I
And
asked
when you
my
look at
question, what?
yeah.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
asked that question to myself when I was dying. What was this life for? How did I
Mhm.
live it? Who did I hurt? What did it cost other people because of my behaviors, my actions, who I believed I was, my identity?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
And
we
I'll
look at
tell
our
you
time,
this.
right?
Yeah,
Ti-
well, I'm going to tell you this. I didn't want to live, and I almost spoke that into existence, but God said, no, we're going to have a realignment here. And because of that, I enjoy living. I have peace. I have fruit. I enjoy my time.
Oh yeah,
But
brother. You poured into me like nobody's business. Like Will has been silent and allowing me to kind of like be a presence on here. But it make no mistake, I had a call with this guy a couple days ago, and he completely grounded me into one of my blind spots. I'm human. I'm not above anything. I called him. We're just having a talk, and it just came out of us. Will understands the power of being for somebody and giving somebody the space to be able to speak, because he's got all these good little mind nuggets, these nuggets right here just waiting to give it to you. But when you say you need help and you reach out to Will and be like, hey, Will, what was it like facing that? Hey, I've been in a near-death experience too, man. And this is what I learned. I want to learn how to value my time, because that's the most thing we got. It's the one thing we can't create and get more of, but you can.
you're valuable. You matter, folks.
Yes.
Every one of you. And when your lights dim and they go out, it's not going to help. It's
Yeah.
not going to help. It's a life that you get to live and make it matter, make it personal. And when you
Yeah.
do that, you glow. And because you glow, you impact somebody else's life and they glow.
And
In
that's
this
something that's
division,
done. That's done.
in this division, that's right. In this division and hate stuff is dim lights. But you choose that. And there's no reason to. It's because something's hurt in you and you need to look deep inside why. Because you're losing time
Yep.
with no fruit.
All right. Well,
And life
speaking
wasn't
of
meant that way.
time, we went over our time. So
We did, but it
everyone
was
out
worth it.
there on YouTube
Are we
land,
done?
we did go over. We went over, so we apologize for that. We try to be very cognizant of your time. So with that said, you can get into the show notes. Henry will have all the details inside there. I'll get those in there this evening for everyone. So Henry,
This
make sure you
Wednesday,
send those over
folks.
to me, especially
Henry.
your webinar on Wednesday. Send that to me so I can put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
So if you haven't connected with Henry, we'll put that in the show notes so you know how to connect with him and meet up with him and be a part of what he offers out here in this world, which is very transformational. So you had a lot of nuggets tonight in here, guys. I highly recommend you go
You got
back
fired up.
and
That's what you did.
listen, and maybe listen again, because there's tons of nuggets in here. So we thank you for being here with us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you connect with Henry. And Henry, we appreciate you being here
Yes.
tonight. William, close us out.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Again, like Michelle said, Felicia Scott, but choose a life worth living and choose God, because he's the one that created you and he has a purpose for you. And when you align with that, your life gets, I didn't say it wasn't without challenges, because we're all going to have challenges here. But I can tell you what, you're going to have peace during the storm. And there's a lot of storms out there right now. And so align with him. He loves you. He loves every one of you. So let him in. Change your life. All right. And we'll catch you next Monday. And Henry, again, we really enjoyed this night. And thank you for
Thank you,
being
guys.
here. And God bless everybody in our audience. Thank you for watching. And please let these nuggets digest some. Let them be part of your being. Transformation begins when awareness starts.